Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimale in Abuja. Let's begin tonight by letting you know what we covered for you today in respect of the Labour Party and its campaign administration. The candidate, the presidential candidate in the 2023 election for the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, has been giving account of the expenses during the campaign process of last year. Mr. Obi says that the party will give a transparent account of funds realized during the campaign process, and he says that the leadership of the party will be willing and he will ensure that he hires a reputable audit firm to audit the finances of the party. Take a listen to him.
I've told everybody that whatever we received, directly, indirectly, will be accounted for transparently. For the party, I'm a member of the party, and they have chosen to say I'm the leader. What we need to do in the party, and I discussed it with the leadership, is that we must now appoint a reputable audit firm to audit and be able to deal with the accounting of the party. When I'm involved with anywhere money is, it must be transparently nice. So there's the allegation and counter-allegation now that must be thoroughly investigated and verified.
But it's coming on the heels of accusation and counter-accusation on the leadership of the Labour Party and how monies belonging to the party or accruers to the party have been spent. Well, tonight we will get a very experienced former governor, a two-term governor, who has also served as minister, to give us insight into how this state police concept can be achieved. Now, this was an idea that for the first time that I can remember in the governance of this country, that the federal government, state governors will come together and agree that there should be an adoption of state police. Well, the insecurity in the country may have pushed the leaders to agreeing on coming to the same table, and it does look like we're gradually getting to the point where there's a thinking about rejigging the political structure of this country, which will go down into also adjusting and reviewing the Constitution of Nigeria. Because if they agree today on adopting state police, it then goes to tell you what could happen when all of this has been said. Some of the pictures coming from that meeting, the president and the state governors. Thereafter, there was a meeting of the NEC headed by the Vice President, Kashim Shettima. We're bringing you some of the soundbite, major one, which came out of that meeting, and my guests will be joining me tonight. Just stick around, everyone. But first, let me serve you with some of your political roundup stories.
The federal government has discontinued the trial of Omoyele Sowore and his co-defendant Olawale Bakare, candidates of the African Action Congress. The discontinuance was communicated by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, citing constitutional provisions as the basis for discontinuing the charges against them. Sowore and Bakare were arraigned in 2019 following a protest rally tagged Revolution Now in Abuja. The Senate has approved a revenue target of 5.79 trillion naira for the Nigeria Customs Service for its 2024 financial year. The President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, announced the approval after the Chairman of the Senate Committee on Customs, Excise and Tariffs, Senator Issa Jibrin, read the committee's report on the 2024 budget of the Nigeria Customs Service. Meanwhile, the Senate has confirmed the appointment of Mr. Adama Oluwole Oladapo as the Executive Director of the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Gas Infrastructure Fund Board. Some elders and leaders of the ruling All Progressives Congress from the North Central, under the aegis of concerned North Central APC stakeholders, have declared total support for the leadership of Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje as the national chairman of the party, asking him to lead the party beyond the 2027 general elections. The elders and leaders who came on a solidarity visit at the National Secretariat of the party in Abuja declared that the current National Working Committee has shown capacity to lead and is fair to all, irrespective of region, tribe or religion. And in Kaduna State, the Northwest Youth Wing of the ruling All Progressives Congress has expressed concerns over the increasing cost of living, hunger and insecurity in the country, particularly in the region, with a call on President Bola Tinubu and the party to find ways of ameliorating the sufferings of the masses. The chairman of the Northwest APC Youth, Abdul Hamid Mohammed, at a meeting in Kaduna, asked the presidency to act fast before the present hardship faced by ordinary Nigerians gets out of hand. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has declared the candidate of the PDP, Mr. Sadiq Tafida, as the winner of the House of Representatives by-election in Taraba State. The election, which took place in 3 federal constituencies of Jalingo, Yoru and Zing local government areas, took 2 weeks to be completed amidst cancellations for overvoting and ballot box snatching. The All Progressives Congress has inaugurated a governorship primary election committee with the aim of electing the best out of the 12 candidates vying for the ticket of the party. The party also inaugurated a governorship primary elections appeals committee charged with the mandate to allow dissatisfied aspirants ventilate their grievances. Chairman of the Governorship Election Primary Committee and Governor of Imo State, Senator Hope Uzodinma, pledged to ensure that the best candidate emerges from the process. The committee has the Governor of Cross River, Mr. Basi Utu, as a deputy chairman. Other members of the committee include Mrs. Titilayo Tomori, Netatwe Goshwe, Umar Hassan, Lawal Garba, and Rabiu Suleiman, while the appeals committee is headed by Barrister C. Udenwa, assisted by 4 other members.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So, the meeting between President Tinubu and state governors looks so much that it's pushed the conversation, age-long conversation about state police to a reasonable extent. It looks like leaders across the different strata are rethinking the structure of Nigeria and how it can work for the people of this country. Perhaps for the first time in history, both federal government and state governors are agreeing to adopting state police structure. The federal government and the state governors are considering the creation of state police, and this was part of the deliberations between the president and the state governors at the presidential villa in Abuja today. After the meeting, of course, the Minister of Information and National Orientation explained some of these issues. Part of what the president told the governor, he said, one of these includes more police personnel to be recruited to strengthen the force. President Tinubu also informed the governors that the federal government will work with them and the National Assembly towards putting in place a mechanism that will engender state police instead of the vigilantes that are being used in some states. The president also asked the governors to strengthen their forest rangers and arm them to keep all the forests safe for criminals. He also told them that the modalities for state police and addressing security issues to be discussed further at National Economic Council. It does look like there is some kind of movement. Let me allow you to listen to the Minister of Information, who gave an idea of what was discussed on the issue of state police. Take a listen to him.
Mr. President and the state governors have also discussed the possibility of improving the numeric strength of forest rangers to train them so that they can keep our forest and our borders very safe. Now, there is also a discussion around the issue of state police. The federal government and the state governments are mulling the possibility of setting up state police.
Well, that was not the only issue that was discussed. The issue of state police gets our attention, though, on the program with my guest giving us insight, benefit of experience he had, because he is very notable for the decision of creating what looks like a state police. in his state. But they also discussed the issue of the rising cost of food. The president has directed the state governments and the federal government that they should collaborate to increase local food production. The president advised that against the idea of food importation and price control when local food producers should be encouraged to produce more food. The president also advised governors to follow the example of Kano State in dealing with hoarding of food for profiteering by commodity merchants. He directed the Inspector General of Police, the National Security Advisor, the DSS to monitor warehouses holding food items across the country and stop profiteering by merchants. The president also asked governors to pay attention to livestock development in their states and increase production, most especially poultry and fishing products. President also pleaded with the governors to ensure all salary arrears to workers, gratuities to workers, pensioners are cleared as a way to put money into the hands of the people, since states are now getting more monthly federal allocation revenues and spend the money to the people, part of what the president implored them to do to create more economic opportunities for the youth in their state. Take a listen to the minister who also briefed in that respect.
A decision has also been taken that in the interest of our country, there will be no need for food importation at this point. Nigeria has the potential to feed itself and even be a next exporter of food items to other countries. The governors have also agreed to join hands with Mr. President to deepen their own investment in the agricultural sector so that more food will be made available to Nigerians. Of course, this investment is not just in crop production, it is also in livestock development and management. All this is to ensure that food is available.
All right, then. So you heard most part of the deliberations, the briefing afterwards, and we go on a short break now, but when we come back, of course, we'll be talking to my guests who will be giving us a benefit as a two-term governor and someone who's delved into resolving security problem when he was a governor. This idea that has been agreed by the president and the governors. How can we achieve it? How can it fix our insecurity problems? Tell me, everyone. We'll be right back after this break. Thank you so much, everyone. So we'll delve into the intricate fabric of Nigerian governance with a distinguished guest, a two-term governor of Kano State, as the nation grapples with the profound question of state police adoption. Our conversation tonight will transcend the political rhetoric to exploring the essence of decentralized security apparatus in this country. This is coming in the backdrop of President Tinubu's administration of finding a solution to the insecurity problems facing the nation and the pivotal role of state governance. We will tonight try to unravel the complexities of power dynamics, the sovereignty and constitutional imperatives of our country. I'm being joined tonight by former governor of Kano State, Ibrahim Shekarau, who was a driving force behind the creation of the local police, the Hizbah Guard. He joins us from our Kano studio. Many thanks for joining us tonight, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being with you, Shegun.
Thank you. I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, you served as minister and you've run the affairs of Kano State on 2 terms. I'm not sure there is a time that the federal government and the state governors will collectively sit in one room and agree on state police. There's been a clamor, debate upon debate over state police, but there has never been an agreement. But for the first time, it looks to me that there is these 2 structures and 2 strata of the Nigerian governance structure coming into one room and agreeing. What do you make of that kind of consensus that we had today?
I think, Mr. Shegun, let me commend the leadership by coming together to address this very protracted, very, very serious and sensitive issue of security in our country. The issue of insecurity has been on the table for almost getting to 2 decades now, and there have been so many propositions, and one of it, of course, that has been
cross-fertilize at different fora at different times, is whether or not there is the desirability of the creation of the state police. I think my understanding is that, you see, there is the desirability, it is necessary, but the problem has been what is going to be the structural setup? How will they operate? What will be the limit of their operations? What kind of equipment are they going to handle? All of this has never been properly addressed. And I think it's not just enough to say, go and create the state police, create the legislation, whether at the national or state level. I think it goes beyond that. Shaun, if we go back to the history lane, we all knew when we were operating the regional governments, within each region there were provinces, there were the native authorities, and each of the native authorities in the provinces had their own NA police, native authority police. Incidentally, Shaun, I am a son of a native policeman. I grew up in the NA police barracks. I know their operations, and we grew up to see them working very well. The whole essence is community watch, community policing. My problem has been most people don't seem to understand when we talk of community policing. You see, most people want to bring in the mirror, exact mirror of the Nigerian police structure, the weapons of the Nigerian police training and operations and so on. That is not so. As you rightly mentioned the opening remarks, we did a lot of community policing in Kano, and it is now history. We challenge anybody to come and see. I want to say immodestly, this is part of the reasons why, to some extent, out of all the 7 states in the northwestern states, Kano seems to be free from all of these insurgencies because there is the local monitoring. It's not just for the government to say, okay, recruit policemen. What we did, we transferred the responsibilities to the localities. We set up committees in every ward, in every local government. A dozen of people, 12, 15, 20, comprising of the district head, the village head, the imam, the priest, if there is one there, the DPO, and all responsible citizens across party lines. There is no political influence in it. And we ask them to go and screen. We gave them guidelines to screen, get volunteers, 20 responsible gentlemen in every ward. So out of the 484 wards in Kano, we ended up with close to 9,000. That's why when we launched it, some people felt Kano was operating a big police force. Our own Hizbah guards were so trusted because they were locally recruited by the people. I insisted that no one should politicize it. Out of the almost 10,000 Hizbah guards in Kano, there wasn't a single one nominated by me or by any party stalwart. I told all my local government chairmen and councillors, if anybody dares politicize this issue, would definitely not be happy with him.
But Governor Shekarau, I mean, one of what, yes. one of course, you know, there are pros and cons to some of these policies, and there are ups and the downs, but there are those who believe that the Hizbah Guard was predominantly a religious policing entity which largely enforced the Sharia law, and perhaps it was a straight-jacketed kind of structure that it had, and which was it has a religious tilt.
No. You see, Shaun, what we must understand is this. It doesn't matter what name you call it. The issue is we want to insist on the right conduct, ethics, whether it is Christian or Muslim. Come to Kano, ask our Christian brothers, they're happy with the Hizbah Guard. It's not purely about Sharia implementation. It is about going about to tell people what is right and what is wrong, and ensure peace of the entire community. All the Hizbah guards is doing in their own communities, they don't even carry a stick. They don't carry any gun. But come and ask anybody in Kano, they will tell you they have command, they have gotten the trust. What we need is not a police that will be terrorizing everybody with weapons, with all the prosecutions and so on. Anytime they get anybody breaking the law, their law permits them to arrest and hand over to the police.
Governor Shekarau, just for a moment. Yeah, let's show our viewers something. And, you know, when you and I were having a pre-chat before this interview earlier in the day, we had a long conversation about our federal structure, how this concept is going to affect our constitution. Let me show our viewers tonight the concept of state police for someone who had a very deep study of federalism and a comparative analysis of federal state and how things work. Let me show you. When you're talking about state police, this is what it looks like. On one hand, you're talking about community policing. No, not this one. Give me a snapshot of a summary of what adoption of state policing could mean. It means that there are stratas and there are layers. So you see, it's a decentralized policing system, a community policing system, a state police, a local government authority policing system. That is a summary of the adoption of state policing. But there is a structure. So let's go to what we showed you earlier and what this could mean in terms of the adoption, what the structure really is, which is fundamental. And I will break it down for you. Now, it comes from the federal level. There will be federal policing system, there is the state level, and the local government level. And interestingly, in Nigeria, in our federal structure, these are the levels that we have in governance structure. So let's break it down. So the federal police will only have their business on national law enforcement, border issues, national security, counter-terrorism. So you go to the state level, they are only bothering themselves about maintaining law and order. That has to do with the territory of that state or that region, and they are providing support for the local law enforcement. The municipal, the grassroots, the local government, which Governor Shekarau was making reference to, the local government level, they will have to deal with issues of neighborhood security, emergency, patrolling. That's what is operating. So let's look at how this has operated in some other crimes. And I will show you 3 federal states across the globe where this is operated, where they are using it. In the United States, for example, in Germany, in Australia. These are the places where this has happened. And so, Governor Shekarau, I mean, you have had, you know, an understanding of this. We had this conversation. Before Nigeria can adopt this, it means that we need to rejig our constitution and tweak our constitution, isn't it?
But I think, Mr. Sheun, in the meantime, as far as our constitutional structure is concerned, I don't think that is exactly what will be operating. You see, you can't separate all these levels. There's no way you will say, okay, the federal police have no business with the state matters and the state police will have no business with the local matters. All we are saying, let there be, you see, I always want to use community watch. This is what we're talking about. Community intelligence watch, community intelligence gathering. These insurgents are not living in the moon. They're not living from somewhere apart. They live with the people. All we need to do is the government to get them coordinated. And Mr. Sheikh, don't forget, we cannot do this without the traditional institutions. That's why that of Kano succeeded. Whatever name you call it, you see, it's not the weapons they take, it's not the powers that you give them. If you take the legislation we did in Kano, the first statement was that the Hizbah Guards is to assist the Nigerian armed forces in the maintenance of law and order. That is exactly basically what they were doing, and these were locally being used. And by the time the people owned them up, and they realized that it was not political structure, it was not collection of party thugs that can be used, because that has been the fear of most of our political leaders in the past that have been arguing against state police, that they are going to be used during election, they will terrorize people. If you get a governor that is crazy, will use it to terrorize opponents and so on. This is not the kind of policing we're after. I think what we need is a community policing owned by the communities, and government is only coordinating so that there is a coordinated chain. For example, the Hisba guards were established in Kano. There is the headquarters in Kano. There is different levels of commands, up to the ward level, up to the village level. And in each of these levels, the district heads, the village heads, the local heads are involved. In fact, they are chairmen of the committees. We have at the state level the Hisba board comprising the elders. In fact, non-political actors are in the board. The police is represented there. The other paramilitary organizations like immigration, custom, in the law were represented there. All we're after is, if you like, we need a setup that will be intelligence monitoring, intelligence gathering and monitoring of their respective communities. This is what we want. And unless we involve the traditional institutions who are up to today being respected in each of the corners of Nigeria, they are to be involved, they are to be guided. All what government does is the coordination, the funding, and of course the training. We spent a whole year after establishing the Hisba guards, training them at different levels.
Governor Shekarau,
from the highest command downwards. Yeah. So I think the structure you are talking about in Germany, in the US, I don't think that is, we have not gotten there, Shehu. What we need is community monitoring. And at a certain point, Shehu, when we were in the Senate, I think it was either 2020 or 2021, there was a time the Senate invited the then Inspector General of Police, one Mohammed something. He stood there for 5 hours being drilled. In the end, he pointed at me and told the Senate President, Mr. President, that is Kano State government sitting among you. They have done community policing. It is working. The police are working with them. They are happy doing the same thing. They are monitoring. People are trusting them. In fact, you'll be surprised that in Kano, people prefer to take their cases to the Hisba board offices, to the Hisba guards offices, including the non-indigenous that you call, including the non-Muslims. Ask any Christian in Kano. Initially, when we started, people thought this is religious-based, and it will terrorize, it will deny people their rights, and so on. And we argued with the Obasanjo government, and we defeated them up to the Supreme Court. Because we went through the legislation, we went through the process provided by the Constitution, and I kept challenging anyone to go and challenge the Hisba guard setup, which we did through the constitutional procedure and legislated. And up to today, nobody has challenged it, and it is working.
Governor Shekarau, so
we are not talking.
Yeah. So let's look at some of the propositions and what President Tinubu told the governors today. And I'd like to get your reactions to...
Let me quickly interject. After that sitting in the Senate, the Inspector General of Police invited me. I came there with my team. Some of the senior officers in the headquarters know that. We removed the name Hisba. What the police, Nigerian police, have today as a document of the community policing was produced by me and my team. And we gave it to them. And they went around the whole country advertising community policing. It's our product. Always saying, take it, study it, and I explained it even on the floor of the Senate, that look, the governors have to do the buy-in. They have to be part of it, but they must not politicize it. It's not going to be a political vanguard group. That is, so I'm surprised when I see some of the states setting up structures, getting them 1,000, 2,000, and recruited at the state level. And the recruitment was not done by the very local people involved.
Governor Shekarau,
who are being attacked day and night.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's safe to...
go ahead.
Yeah, it's safe to say a former governor, a former minister, a former senator. I'm going to give you a title tonight. You don't have to pay for it. I'm going to confirm you as a community policing expert. So you don't have to pay for that title. I think you've worked for it.
Well, the police, for your information, the police have not even paid for it. Ask them. They have my documents there and they'll be working with it. I will go and ask them to pay me for that.
You better tell your lawyers to get your fee. Yeah. So let me ask you, honestly, there are a few things, Governor Shekarau, right, that I'd like you to comment quickly on. Don't forget, I also discussed with you that I'd like to get your reaction on the proposition to change the presidential system to parliamentary system. We'll get there in a moment. But let me get a few points where what the president said to the governors today. And I'd like your quick interventions on them. The first thing that the president said to the governors, he said to them, he's proposing that there will be a more recruitment of the police personnel to strengthen the force. What is your view on that?
Well, I even produced a document. I will make it available to you. I presented it through the Chief of Staff of President Buhari. I don't know whether he passed it over to them. One of the things I advise is that there must be a very serious drive in mass recruitment of the Nigerian police. What we have today, take Egypt, for example. Egypt is about 80 million people, but they have up to 4 million policemen. Nigeria, we have over 200 million people. We don't have up to 1 million policemen. It's just about 400, 450, or even 350,000. So the recruitment, Buhari promised to recruit 10,000 every year, but my committee in the Senate, Sheun, was in charge of pension. And from the police pension records, on the average, every year, 5,000 policemen leave the service, either by death, by retirement, by whatever means, on the average 5,000. So if you are recruiting 10,000 a year, you are technically recruiting only 5,000. So I made a submission. I have the documents. I gave it to Professor Ibrahim Shekarau, to the government, that what we need, that there be a proper plan of about 50,000, 60,000 recruitment drive, non-stop, continuous training. The problem has been the recruitment has not been steady. And there is no way with 350 policemen you can police the whole of Nigerian territory. It's not practicable. It can't work. The number is inadequate. The equipping is inadequate. The funding is inadequate. The training is inadequate. The welfare is inadequate. All of these have to be put together to the table to address this insecurity. Then you complement it with this community policing. Come and see how it is working. We're not talking of something abstract. I challenge anyone to come to Kano, go to the Hizbah board, find out the records, ask anybody on the street. The community policing is working. Of course, not a perfect one, but at least the issue of recruitment, I agree, is so inadequate. We need to have about 10, 20-year long-term plan of recruitment. Very shamefully, Mr. Sheun, 3 years ago, the chairman of the Police Service Commission and the Inspector General of Police were in court fighting as to who is to recruit, who is to deploy. It's very shameful. A mere director in the office can solve this problem. I once challenged the Minister of Police. I said, what is happening? He said, President allowed them to go to court. What kind of lousiness is that? For that reason, for 2 good years, there was no recruitment anywhere. We can't proceed in this. So there must be the leadership, there must be the long-term plan.
Another issue that I'd like to get your view on is the fact that the president has said, governors, give guns to rangers, forest rangers, because in the forest, boarding the state, at where some of these criminals are hibernating and hiding and killing and kidnapping, abducting innocent citizens. So the president has asked the governor to strengthen their forest rangers and arm them to keep all the forest safe from criminals. What is the implication of this? Well, what is the president telling them invariably?
Mr. Sheun, I think this is a very serious challenge to the governors. If I may modestly tell you, one of the problems is, with all due respect to the governors, they are denying the local government their funds to operate. When we were in office, everybody knows the Falgore forest in Kano. 2 local governments of Dogo and Tudunwada local government were taking care of this forest. They bought them patrol vehicles. They pay the allowances of the mobile police and the military being deployed there. They buy them the tanks. They bought the motorcycles because we gave them all their funds. For 8 years, I never held 1 naira of any of my 44 local governments. They were operating. We were all guiding them. So the problem is, it's not just enough to tell the governors to go and guard their forests. Allow the local governments to operate. Give them their funds. Give them the guidelines. Give them the orders. They'll be able to monitor it through the community watching. We did it. It's not something abstract. It's doable, Shehu. I did it in Kano. Local governments were looking after all of these forests. But when you sit at the state level and you are waiting for the Nigerian police, the Nigerian army to go and monitor your forest, what the hell are the local governments doing? But of course, they are helpless. They are being denied their funds. They are not allowed to operate. All their money is being collected to beautify the cities. And they are being denied their own funds to work for them. So this directive by Mr. President is perfectly in order, but I assure him it's not going to work until and unless the state governments allow the local governments to operate, decentralize the operations of the monitoring and the policing to the local government.
But that debate, Senator Shekarau, that debate has had, it's been very heated. There are those who will say there are no 3 layers of governance in Nigeria. There are just 2 layers, the federal and the state. The state takes control of how it runs its local government. I mean, you've said to us tonight of how you confronted the Obasanjo government about the issue of Hisbah and some of the litigation. You remember the sitting president and the feisty legal war he entered into against the Obasanjo government when he created the LCDAs. And now in Ekiti, in Osun State, we now have LCDAs. Now, there are those some governors who believe that the state should be allowed to control the local government as they wish. Those who believe that is how the Constitution has allowed for it.
I think, let me make it clear. The use of the word control is very inappropriate. What we did, we are not controlling them. We are allowing them to have their funds. But the state, the Constitution allows the state assembly to create laws for guidance of the local government. That's all we did. There's nothing you call control. We allow them to have their funds. We didn't just throw the money to the local government to spend arbitrarily. We set guidelines. And up to a certain limit, since they don't have the correct personnel, they come back to the state government, we liaise with them, we tidy it up, we allow them to go and operate. So it's the word of control does not right. I didn't have to wait for the constitutional amendment to give me the independence of the local government before I operated. I allowed the local government. And I didn't have to wait for any constitutional amendment to give the traditional institutions any particular role. I created the role. We bought vehicles for our district heads. I compelled, or rather guided the local government. They bought vehicles for the district heads, the village heads. We reviewed their salaries, and they were happy they were operating. Up till today, that is what is operating. And therefore, don't be surprised that Kano is out of this mess, because what we have institutionalized, even though some part of it has been abused, but the structure is there. All you need to do is to make sure it works. So, Shehu, it's not about controlling local government's funds, controlling local government by the state government. We work together. It's not about controlling. Today, the president
how do you then ensure?
I gave them guidelines.
Because you mentioned that, some of the governors are complicit in not allow the local government to function. How do we enforce
most of them?
How can local government function in this country? You've been governor 2 times. So how do we ensure that state governments take their hands off the necks of the local government?
Elect the right people. That's right. It's not about enforcement. Today, the president invited the governors and gave them some directives. That does not mean the president is controlling the governors. The same way, I think the problem is our recruitment process into political office, shown with due respect, is still very wrong. We're getting the wrong people who don't understand the operations of governance, who don't even know why they are there, with all due respect to my colleagues that have been elected into office. You see, unless and until we get the right people who know why they are there, who know the issue of governance, the issue of delegation of responsibilities, so it's not about enforcement. You can create 1 million laws. If you get the wrong people in office, you will not see the results shown. So it's not about enforcement. All the laws we need in this country are there. I don't think we need any laws. I'm not a lawyer, but I know from the little experience I have, I don't think we need any new laws to govern Nigeria, to govern the state, to govern the local government. What we need is for people to know what they need to do.
All right.
For example, there were strikes on the independence of the judiciary. I didn't have to wait for the Constitution to enforce any independence of the judiciary. At the end of every quarter, I gave the legislature, I gave the judiciary their funds, we gave them the latitude, they operated. Ask any judiciary man in Kano or any former legislator, they would tell you we gave them their independence. So there are certain things. I said, constitution of common sense. Shehu, we don't have to write everything on the pages of the Constitution.
Let me ask you.
I mean, realities.
Yeah. Let me ask you quickly.
Let's get the right people in office and we see the right thing.
There is the 2014 confab. And those who sat in that confab will tell you that the structure to operate some of these things are already in that document, which is gathering dust somewhere in the presidential villa when it was submitted. Would you be advocating? Because those who also will say, oh, this is a tacit endorsement of a restructuring concept, which President Tinubu, when he was a pro-democracy agitator, himself and his colleagues were advocating for. I mean, are you going to be advocating tonight that the president should dust that up, that document, and everything that is needed perhaps is in that document? Do you think?
I think very well, Shewan. I have gone through that document. It was 2014 during Jonathan's government. He personally handed it over publicly at Eagle Square to Mr. President Buhari, and nothing was done about it. I think I will advise Mr. President Tinubu, dust this up, bring it up, maybe set up a small committee, review it, see things that are doable. Most of these things we're talking about are there. I am for restructuring. But you see, you have 1 million types of interpretations of restructuring. What I mean by restructuring is let us come back to allow bottom-up structure of government. There should be some participation of the people correctly, and where you put in too much powers in the executive, I think is not helping us. I am for restructuring, and I will prefer the other system, parliamentary system, to this executive system. One, it will reduce our cost. It will bring in more involvement of the people. And look at what is happening in the UK. At every time when the Prime Minister misbehaves, they will quickly get rid of him or allow him to resign and elect another head of the government. But today is a very big hard nut to break when you talk of impeachment of the president. Some people have tried it, it never worked. So this kind of situation must be changed. We must really come back, look inwards, and solve our problem by changing the entire system. I have no problem with the restructuring, Shehu, but what is important is what do we want to achieve with that? Let's get to the table.
All right.
I think Confab 2014 addressed a lot of this. Let's go back to the table and see what's happening. I think somehow it's not just enough for the president to give them that directive. Let it be processed. I understand some legislators in the National Assembly have tabled a proposal for a review so that we go back to the parliamentary system. I commend them. I only hope the legislators will really think deeply and consult. And I'm sure many Nigerians will go for it. And I'm sure all of these problems will be solved. So finally, even though I'm not finally, I still insist, Shehu, part of our problem is recruitment of the right people. A situation whereby we buy offices, we buy candidature, we spend money to buy delegates, to put in people in office. There's no way you can get the correct people. Nigeria has the best of people in every aspect you can think of. Our problem is, let us get committed, identify those that can do the job, and allow them to do it.
Yeah.
It's a challenge to the political parties.
I just have a little, just about 1 minute or thereabout to go. But I wanted to conclude this conversation on the decision of President Tinubu and the governors today. Would you say it's a good decision in the right direction?
It is. It is a good decision in the right direction, and I hope it will not just end like the usual political statement to pacify the people. Let us see action. Some states are already acting generally, but I think there needs to be some synergy. Let there be some uniformity in the approach, so that the communities will own it up. The document is there with the Nigerian police. We spent weeks with them working on it. All the documents, I feel a little bit immodest to be saying this, but because it was an in-house work. But I'm compelled to say this thing, that the police are ready to receive this community work. They've done quite a lot. We worked with them, we gave them all the documents, we produced all of these things. But this will not work until and unless the president and the governors buy into it. My suggestion is that there should be a retreat where the president and the governors and all the security chiefs and those of us that have tried this thing and work, we sit and discuss this. If governor just said go and do it, people who don't understand it will not even be able to implement.
Governor Shekarau, I have just about 40 seconds to go. And let me give you a most difficult task. And it's on the issue that the president also raised, and which is about food shortage and increase in prices of food. Two things that the president had made clear today. He said no food importation. We will look inwards locally. Secondly, it will not fix price of commodity, despite the order coming from the court based on what Femi Falana has asked the court to do. Is the president, did he take the right decision today? Just in 30 seconds, if you may.
No. I think, Sheun, I subscribe to the argument that we are not complaining of the shortage of food. The problem is people cannot buy the food. If you go to the market, the food items are there. The purchasing power, the value of what you are going to get when you give out the money is nothing much to write home about. So a salary of 30,000 will not give you more than half a bag of your rice, which will not last more than a week or two. So what we're saying, the food is there, and I support the government to bring in the grains out, but that is not the end of it. If the grains are out, whether you're giving it free or people are buying, that's not the issue. What are you doing in the currency issue? The value of the naira that is depreciating by the days. And this is the problem. So the purchasing power of our money is the problem, and the food is there. So whether you import or don't you import, whether you allow the farmers to produce or whatever, this is a long-term thing.
All right.
The issue now is government has to address the economic policy to make sure the money in our hands can buy the food in our houses.
All right. Senator Ibrahim Shekarau, a former two-term governor of Kano State, a former federal minister. Thank you so much indeed. Don't forget the title that I gave you tonight. Use it, and use it very well, because it comes at no cost to you. But I'm giving you on the national television. It will work well.
Thank you.
As a community policing expert. You deserve
Thank you very much. And it's going to be consultancy free of charge. Whoever wants it is welcome.
All right.
Including Mr. President.
Thank you so much indeed. And it's good to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Senator Shekarau, thank you so much indeed for your time.
It's a pleasure being here, too.
Yeah. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Men, thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing. I'm Shewan Kimale. God bless Nigeria.